Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth, and fancy seeing you here, and you are very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Coming, sit down, grab a pew if you can find one, because this is what we're talking about today. Smallville Season 6. Now, any devout Smallville fan knows the critics did not like Smallville Seasons 4, 5, and 6, and there was big criticism. But Smallville had a bigger challenge in Season 6 than just the critics. The CW was merged with CBS Television. Warner Brothers and CBS merged to create the CW. Was no longer the WB. The WB had a proud history. Alan Miles always spoke about how supportive the WB were with Smallville, and basically the CW was created to be a channel for young girls. And Smallville Season 6 had some changes to it, but credit to Alan Miles, they fought their corner. And personally, I think Season 6 is a great season. Now, a lot of people don't think so. A lot of people feel that Smallville lost that charm. People were missing the character of Jonathan Kent, that Kent family dynamic. And I think a lot of people rightly said that the Martha and Clark dynamic wasn't as strong as that three-pronged Kent family unit, but it is what it is. And I still think there's some great scenes between Martha and Clark. So, Season 6, why do I love Season 6? And why do I think the critics are wrong? Well, first of all, Alan Miles built this season as the rise of Lex Luthor. For this, I mean, we got glimpses of it in Season 5, but Season 6, he's literally becoming the Lex Luthor from the comics. And, you know, kudos to Michael Rosenbaum. And let's be honest, it comes as no surprise, does it? He pulled off Dark Lex as well as he did amiable, friendly Lex. The guy is an acting legend. And for me, seeing him doing podcasts and stuff is fun. But I can't believe how this guy isn't making critically acclaimed films. This man is so good. And I think part of it is he likes to make people laugh. He wants to make comedy, and he wanted to get into that avenue of it. It hasn't necessarily been successful for him, but I think such a powerful actor should still be working in Hollywood. And I'm surprised he's not. But then again, Michael is very, very like you and me if you read his tweets. But anyway, I'm getting distracted. Lex Luthor in this season is brilliant. But I do think for people who don't know the comics, that don't know Lex Luthor is Clark Kent's Superman's ultimate nemesis, this was hard to take because they were used to the friendly Lex and they couldn't really get into the darker Lex. But it was brilliant. It really worked. So, of course, we get the whole Lana and Lex relationship. Again, this didn't sit well with people. But again, for me, it worked in elements because they were able to seclude Lana away from Clark. And this really helps at the end of the season when Clark reveals his powers, because Lana finds out mid-season that Clark has powers, but she thinks he's a meteor freak. So she doesn't want to marry Lex. So on the wedding day, you get those iconic Lionel Luthor words. If you don't keep the promise you made to my son, I will kill Clark Kent. Brilliant, brilliant. I thought that moment was so powerful. And this is just classic. I remember talking about that episode afterwards saying, you know, John Glover just shows how well he played the bastard side of Lionel Luthor. I don't think there's been a more nefarious character in TV since J.R. Ewing, but this guy was 21st century J.R. Ewing. And, you know, John Glover just, how to have people like John Glover and Michael Rosenbaum in this show was just an honour for me. They pulled it out the bag. The writing, the conceit from Alan Miles was so brilliant. Now, by Season 6, literally, Kelly Sells and Brian Peterson, the great writing duo who took over the show from Season 8, I think they were really more hands-on. And basically, Alan Miles were presenting them with the kind of the arc of the season, and they would write it all up. And, of course, Smallville had a writer's room. And if you see the bonus features from Season 4, you'll check out how great that writer's room is. See, writer's rooms don't always work. It was funny how Chris Chibnall was talking about having a writer's room for Doctor Who season 11, but it seems like he just sat there and told them what to write, and then they left the room. So, but the Smallville writer's room was great, and I think there was a great atmosphere within that writer's room, and I really enjoyed what they come up with. So season 6 saw the introduction of Green Arrow, the first live-action Green Arrow ever, played by Justin Hartley, who of course played Aquaman, aka Arthur Curry, in Alan Miles' ill-fated Aquaman pilot, which never happened, which was a shame. But within this industry, other opportunities come up. Justin Hartley's a great guy. I thought Justin Hartley was a great Green Arrow. He really was. And I loved the rivalry between him and Lex. I loved the flashback episode Reunion and everything that happens in there. And I love that Oliver's always kind of getting angry with Clark because he's saying, why are you hiding here in this farm? There's a world of people who need your help. It's time for you to suit up. But Clark's not ready because, of course, the big thing about season 6 is Clark's trapped in the Phantom Zone in the premiere. And let me just say to you, the VFX for the Phantom Zone in the first episode is absolutely fantastic. I don't think there's better VFX in the Arrowverse shows right now. Really, really, really good. So he's got that to deal with. And, of course, Lana and Lex are together now. That is, of course, bugging Clark, and that's a problem to Clark. Now, there's a great episode, which I always thought was going to be a filler episode called Crimson. So this is when Lois wears the red kryptonite lipstick. She falls in love with Clark, not out of choice. She kisses Clark and he gets infected. So you get this whole filler stuff, which is still great. But then the second part of this episode is some of the best Smallville you will ever see. Clark gate crashes the rehearsal engagement or whatever it is at the Luthor mansion, and it really kicks off. He kidnaps Lana. And, of course, this is when Lana starts to discover that Clark's not like you and me when Lex goes to stab him with the crowbar and it's broken. And then this season takes off even more. But, of course, in season 6, we're also introduced to the Martian Manhunter. Now, I know we've got a Martian Manhunter in Supergirl, but this version of the Martian Manhunter is absolutely brilliant. This actor and these writers really put it off. I like in the episode when Clark's tracing the Phantom, and then he finds these cookies on the floor. And, of course, Martian Manhunter is well known in the comics for loving cookies. But it was really a great version. But then you get a really brilliant departure episode, and I forgot what it was called. So basically, one of these phantoms can literally control your mind and change your reality. So what happens, one of these phantoms gets into Clark's head. So he wakes up. One minute he's in the barn, he collapses in the barn, then he wakes up in an asylum. And these doctors in the asylum, they tell him that your whole life that you think was your life is fake. You've lost your mind. You're not from Krypton. You're an ordinary human being. Lex Luthor tells him that he didn't save him on the bridge that day. He actually crippled him. He lost his legs because of Clark. So Clark starts to slowly believe that maybe this is a true reality, that he's absolutely insane. But the only person there really to help him is the Martian Manhunter. And really a great introduction to the character as well. But this episode is one of the best episodes of Smallville history. And Tom Welling. Now, we all know Tom was very raw when he first started in Smallville. He wasn't an actor. He was a model. He'd done this and that. But he didn't have much experience. But for me, this shows how proficient Tom became with the art of acting. And it really is a great episode. And Promise is another great episode. I really love Promise. So, of course, that's Lex and Lana's wedding day. And what you do, you get kind of the three perspectives from Lex, Lana and Clark. Different perspectives from this episode. And it is so, so good. And in the end, Lana and Lex do get married because that is the episode where Lionel says, if you don't keep the promise you made to my son, I will kill Clark Kent. Because Lana thinks that Clark's indestructible, but Lionel educates and says he has got a weakness. So, but of course, Lionel's doing this to protect Clark. He needs Lana to spy on Lex. There are so many wonderful episodes, and I just want to talk about Lois Lane and, you know, the whole kind of Wes Keenan arc as well is great. But Lois Lane, for me, Smallville's version of Lois Lane is definitely the best live action version. I love the fact that she's a military brat. So when she drop kicks a guy who's attacking her, you believe it, because Lana had like a couple of hours with Lex at the mansion doing self-defense, and she can drop kick anyone. But Lois grew up on army barracks because her father's a general. She nicknames her father the General. So you believe her tomboyishness, her aggression, the way she's feisty to people. She's a great Lois Lane. And one of the things you've got to avoid when writing Lois Lane is making her a bitch. A lot of people in the comics even try and make her a bitch, and it never works. And because for me, Lois Lane is a very compassionate, intelligent, curious woman. And, you know, also what I love about Smallville is not necessarily the elements of this season, but this season really shows you that comparability of the angst between Clark and Lana. And then in the final 3 seasons, you see the different relationship between Clark and Lois. But you even see when they're friends in the early years why Clark and Lois are going to make this great successful couple, and why Clark and Lana can never be together, because Lana just can't handle who and what Clark is. And in the first seasons, it's because he's hiding this secret from her. But then when she knows the secret in season 7, you can see the kind of things that she does. Her being exposed to Lex in that year of being married to him has turned her into something else. It's darkened her soul, and she's willing to do whatever it takes now. I'll talk more about season 7, but there's a great scene in season 7 between Chloe and Lana, and where she kind of says to her, you know, you're my friend, Lana, but if you are ever a danger to Clark, I'll have to deal with you, or something along those lines. But we'll talk about that when I review season 7. You know, I really loved this season. Season 6 for me was the evolution of Smallville, and not everybody liked that evolution. But for me, Smallville season 6 was a success. But of course, Smallville season 6 had another challenge, because it was up against this little show called Heroes on NBC that was killing it. Season 1 of Heroes was brilliant. The rest of it's a load of crap. But Smallville had everything its own way on TV. There was no other like comic book shows or superhero shows out back then. But Heroes was a problem. But because Smallville was Smallville and it had hour miles, it rose above that, and it took the challenge head on. So I absolutely love Smallville season 6. I shall be rewatching Smallville season 7 as from today. Bizarro, by the way, one of my favourite season premieres. I think it's Bizarro, isn't it? And, you know, Smallville's had it all. And I think Smallville has represented the DC comic characters a lot better than Arrowverse did. But yes, that's my season 6 review of Smallville. I absolutely loved it. I'll never get tired of this show, and I'll always keep holding on to Smallville.